this bullish debut. So joining me now with more is Michael Ranking, Senior Market Strategist for the Exchange. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, such a great day for you to join us here in studio. Our viewers might be able to see the sign behind them, bullish right there, front and center. What a day it's going to be. Yeah. What should we know about bullish?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no better day to be bullish to very bullish, after markets closed at a new all-time high yesterday. So as you mentioned, kind of bullish, raised about $1 billion in capital, kind of last night in their IPO, valuing the company over $5 billion. So it may not be necessarily kind of a household name, kind of to many of our kind of viewers or our audience, but they are an institutionally focused, kind of global digital asset kind of firm, right, with kind of two distinct business lines, really, like if you think about it. So it's a centralized exchange, where they're institutionally focused on, kind of trading in crypto markets, right, so from not only from trading, but settlements and custody, right, and then they also have, kind of the arguably the biggest and kind of, kind of most important news and data platform, CoinDesk, which will be more familiar for a lot of our viewers who follow crypto markets, right? And that is a morning note that I go to every day to kind of understand what's happening in crypto markets. Their indexes have over kind of $40 billion of AUM that tracks kind of their CoinDesk indexes, right? So it's kind of a very important company within kind of the crypto complex. They've processed over $1 trillion of kind of trading since their inception, with over 750 billion of that coming in the last 12 months through the end of Q1. So kind of it's an exciting day.
Yeah, it is an exciting day indeed. What does this signal about the overall IPO market?
Yeah, so I mean, look, we've had kind of quite a few really notable IPOs over the last kind of couple months, right? And that's coming over in the summer months, right? So it's sort of hard to argue that kind of that IPO markets aren't fully open at this point, right? You continue to see these high-profile companies raising, kind of, and upsizing their deals, raising more capital to go out, invest in their companies, invest in innovation, could create jobs, right? And you're seeing kind of those stocks trade really well in the secondary market, right? So there's a lot of demand, kind of on the initial public offering, and then also kind of in that secondary market. So kind of a really exciting time, and it's hard to say that kind of that the momentum, right, I would expect that to continue, because you're in the middle of August right now, which tends to be a slow period.
Yeah.
And we've had, we just had, kind of Figma last week, the biggest single day move for an IPO this year, right? And now we have, Bullish today, which should be, another exciting one.
Yes, indeed. So stock market at a record high. IPO momentum, summer sizzle, if you will, as you just mentioned there. And then we have to talk about cryptocurrency, right? Because obviously Bullish does play in that space. Bitcoin back above 120,000. Yep. What has changed this year for crypto? Yeah,
I mean, there's been so many kind of catalysts that have driven kind of crypto markets. You have Bitcoin, over 120,000, kind of sitting right around an all-time high, right? And that comes down to kind of a couple different buckets, right? I think it comes down to liquidity, kind of in the form of kind of ETF demand and treasury companies, the shifting regulatory environment that we've seen, kind of especially here in the U.S. with the new administration, right? And we're also starting to see, kind of the adoption of these companies. So to put it in perspective, right, the Bitcoin is up about 30% year to date. But the new driver has really been in kind of the last month or two has been the rally that we're seeing in altcoins, right? And that really came on the back of Ethereum. So Ethereum has now crossed over Bitcoin for the best performing, better performing asset year to date, up 40%. But that's happened, it's up almost 100% since the beginning of July.
Wow.
Right, so a massive, massive move.
And so we're starting to see it broadening out. Would it be fair then to say that this is going more mainstream?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I think, with the regulatory changes that we've seen here, right, you're starting to see kind of the institutional adoption, right, and now, kind of, that traditional finance is trying to figure out how to bridge, that DeFi to traditional finance. So to kind of break that down, right, we had, kind of the SEC Crypto Task Force. We just passed the Genius Act, which kind of sets a regulatory framework for stable coins, which just passed a week ago. Now we have the Clarity Act, which is, has passed the House. It's moving to the Senate. And so that'll get marked up, hopefully pushing kind of pushing through sometime in kind of Q4. That's going to kind of set a definition of kind of digital, kind of crypto commodities, digital kind of assets, kind of set the regulatory framework, right? And that's going to just continue to drive kind of that innovation.
How do stable coins factor into this conversation?
Yeah, so stable coins has been a big piece of it, and that's a big piece of the Ethereum story. Right, so kind of going back to the idea of kind of the liquidity and the demand that we're seeing, right? Stablecoins tend to reside on kind of the Ethereum layer 1 or the layer 2s that kind of reside over that layer 1, right? So that's where that's starting to drive kind of volumes in Ethereum. But what we've also seen is with the Ethereum ETF. Right, that's raised about $10 billion about $10 billion of capital inflows, which is kind of trails Bitcoin pretty significantly. Bitcoin over the last years has had about $50 billion of inflows, right? But if you look at what's happened in Ethereum, on Monday there was over $1 billion of inflows into Ethereum ETFs, right, which is the biggest on record. So I mean, put that in $10 billion of inflows. 10% of that happened on Monday alone, right? So, and then along with that, right, you also have the kind of the creation of these crypto treasury companies that have been coming to market, right? So Michael Saylor's Bitcoin, kind of strategy or MicroStrategy, as it used to be known, was kind of the poster child for that within Bitcoin. We've now started to see, kind of some very big players in in Ethereum, Bitminer, listed here on the Amex, kind of with kind of Tom Lee, right? They continue to raise massive amounts of capital, right? And we're seeing kind of I think there's about $2 billion of kind of Ethereum held within these crypto treasuries.
Michael Renking, Senior Market Strategist for the NYSE. Michael, always good to have you, and we're going to see you just after the market open too.
Right. Thanks for having me. See you soon.
We'll see you soon.